If you've ever considered a robot lawnmower, you've probably run into the same problem as most others, the installation. Because the traditional way to set up a robot lawnmower is one of the most tedious tasks you can give yourself in a garden. But fortunately, that's not a problem with Navimow's H2 robot lawnmower, which I'm taking a closer look at in this video. Most traditional robot lawnmowers require you to bury a boundary wire around your entire lawn, around flower beds, around trees, and around everything the robot must not drive over. It can easily take half a day or more, and if you do it wrong, well, then you have to start all over again. Are you changing your garden, new flower beds, a new terrace, or something similar? Then the cable has to be dug up and relayed, and if you happen to tear it while working in the garden, well, then you have to repair the brake for your mower to work as it should. It's exactly that type of installation that has kept many from taking the step and getting a robot lawnmower. Fortunately, Navimow H2 does it in a completely different way, which makes the installation significantly easier. It requires neither boundary wire nor other installations in your garden. You just have to take it out of the box, place the charging station at the edge of the lawn so it can be connected to a power outlet, and then open the Navimow app on your phone. The app guides you step by step through the setup, and then the robot starts mapping your garden without you having to do anything more. I'll show you exactly how it works in a moment. But before that, let's take a look at what makes the H2 different from many of the other cable-free systems. What sets Navimow's machine apart from most other robot lawnmowers is its navigation system. It combines three technologies at once: Network RTK, Lidar, and vision-based AI. Network RTK is satellite navigation with centimeter accuracy. It's the same principle used in professional surveying tools, and it means the robot always knows exactly where it is on your lawn. RTK stands for real-time kinematic, and it's a precision navigation method that builds on top of regular GPS. The problem with standard GPS is that it's typically accurate within a few meters, which is fine when you need to find your way to an unfamiliar zip code, but is far too imprecise when a robot lawnmower needs to know if it's on the lawn or in the flower bed. RTK solves this by combining the satellite signal with data from a network of ground-based reference stations whose positions are precisely known. When the robot receives a satellite signal, the reference stations receive the same signal at exactly the same time. And because the stations know exactly where they stand, they can calculate the deviation in the signal and send a correction to the robot in real time, hence the name. The result is a positioning accuracy of down to a few centimeters instead of the few meters you get with regular GPS. The clever thing about Network RTK is that the corrections don't come from a single local antenna you've set up yourself in the garden, but from a nationwide network of professional reference stations. So you don't need to install anything at all in your own garden, because H2 connects to the network via the standard mobile network, since it has both built-in GPS and a 4G data connection. The other system the robot uses is Lidar, which works like a kind of mini radar, but with light instead of radio waves. The sensor emits millions of laser pulses per second and measures exactly how long it takes for the light to hit a surface and bounce back. In this way, it builds a detailed 3D map of everything nearby: a chair leg, a ball forgotten on the lawn, a cat sleeping in the grass. The H2's LiDAR scans the surroundings with nearly 200,000 points per second, and because it's laser light and not a camera, it works just as well in the dark as in daylight. Therefore, the robot can also mow at night without any problems. LiDAR also allows the H2 to navigate under dense vegetation where satellite coverage might be poor, and it can safely move through narrow passages as small as 70 centimeters wide. It can detect objects with up to 1 centimeter accuracy, and it can even figure out for itself if there's enough space to drive under, for example, trampolines or tables, without getting stuck. It's worth noting that the H2 uses what's called solid-state LiDAR, meaning it has no moving parts. This makes it much more durable, and because the sensor is inside the machine, rather than the rotating versions that stick out of the housing, it's also much less susceptible to scratches, impacts, or things falling onto the robot. Something that can easily happen as it moves around your garden. Navimow has completed over 60 different reliability tests and even 50 G vibration tests to ensure that the H2 can withstand the tough life outdoors. The third technology is a camera system with AI that can recognize more than 200 different objects, including 20 different animals. If the robot approaches your dog or cat while mowing, it will therefore brake on its own and maintain a 1 meter distance instead of just driving on. The three systems complement each other, and the H2 can switch between them in just 20 milliseconds, so it always uses the system that provides the best precision in any given situation. In practice, this means the robot never loses its bearings and always knows exactly where it is. But now, we'd better get it unpacked so you can see how it all works in practice. I've placed the charging station at the edge of the lawn and connected the power. Fortunately, a 7-meter power cable is included, so you don't need an outlet right by the lawn, but can, for example, run the long cord to a shed or similar, where the power supply itself can be located. Small ground spikes are included so you can secure the cable to the ground, and there are also screws to fasten the base station so it doesn't move when the robot drives onto it. You can place the robot in the charger right away, but you can actually also set it up before mounting the base station, as it has power. If the weather is bad, you can actually start by setting up the robot indoors. In the box, there's a QR code you can scan to download the Navimow app. You give it access to search for the robot via Bluetooth and to send you notifications so you can get messages from it. And then you just need to create an account to be able to add the robot. The app finds the robot itself via Bluetooth, so you just have to press OK on it to confirm. You also get the option to create a PIN code to unlock the robot. After that, you need to activate Navimow Plus, which enables the 4G connection so you can monitor it wherever it is and gives you extra theft protection. It's free for the first year, and after that it costs €30 a year, so less than €3 a month. But you don't need the 4G connection to use the robot. It just needs access to Wi-Fi when it's on its base station, so it can download updates, weather forecasts, and so on. The advantage of the subscription is that you can communicate with the robot wherever it is, even if there's no Wi-Fi coverage. So even if it's in the furthest corner of your garden, you can keep an eye on it and control it. It's important to emphasize that the Network RTK part, where the robot uses the 4G connection to optimize GPS positioning, doesn't require the subscription and will still work even if you don't pay for Navimow Plus. Once you've connected to Wi-Fi, the app guides you through setting up the base station, and then you can start mapping your garden. On the main screen, you'll also be notified if there's an update for the robot, so you can get the latest software installed. And now comes the fun part. The Navimow H2 can map your garden in two ways: fully automatic or manual, and both make it very easy to get started. If your garden is relatively simple and has clearly defined grass areas, choose automatic, then use the buttons on your phone screen to drive the robot to the middle of the lawn and press Mark this zone. If your lawn is divided into several areas, you can drive to the next zone to mark it and so on. And when you're finished, the robot drives around and maps all the zones itself without you having to do anything else. If your garden is more, shall we say, rustic, then you'll need to use manual mapping. But fortunately, it's much easier than it sounds. All you have to do is drive the robot once around the edge of your lawn by controlling it with the buttons on your phone. It's quite easy to steer, so the exercise itself doesn't take long. In the relatively large and complex garden I tried it in, I was finished in about 7 minutes. Once you're back at the starting point, you finish the mapping and save the map, and then the robot is ready for its first mow. While it mows for the first time, it simultaneously builds a graphical representation of your garden, what Navimow calls a geosketch. And that's all it takes to get your lawn mowing automated. But of course, you can do much more. You can customize the map and define so-called no-go zones, areas the robot is not allowed to enter. You can divide the lawn into several zones, each with its own individual mowing schedule, and you can change the map at any time directly on your phone, which is a huge advantage over boundary wire systems where any change requires physical intervention. Yes, you can even use the robot to draw by defining an area that it skips mowing and lets stand for a few days before mowing it all down. Navimow H2 can handle slopes of up to 45% incline, equivalent to 24 degrees, and it has electronic stability control that actively adjusts the wheels in turns to prevent it from tipping over. There weren't quite such steep slopes in the garden I tested it in, but it's nice to know there's a margin, and I didn't experience any problems on the garden's various slopes either. As mentioned, the H2 can recognize over 200 different objects and steer around them, so instead of the classic football, I threw a greenish plastic bucket on the lawn to see if it could confuse the H2 robot. But no, it easily drove around it, and when it met a wheelbarrow on its way, well, it handled that too. When I set up the robot, it was lovely sunny weather, but it also keeps an eye on whether it might start to rain. It downloads the weather forecast itself, so it doesn't start mowing the grass if bad weather is expected, and it even has a built-in rain sensor, so if a local shower occurs, well, it takes that into account too, and it can easily withstand the rain anyway. In fact, it has an IP66 rating, which means you can also hose it clean with the garden hose without being afraid of it breaking. As you may have noticed in some of the recordings, the old lawn where I tested the robot has had a hard winter, and the cold spring has meant that there hasn't been much grass growth yet. Therefore, I set the cutting height to the maximum 7 centimeters, which is super easy in the app because the grass just needs a chance to grow a bit before it's cut properly. Later in the year, I'll probably return with a status update on how it's gone and how the lawn has developed after being cared for by the Navimow H2. So remember to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that video, and if you want to read more about the Navimow H2 or maybe order one, then there's a link to it down in the description, and otherwise, I just hope to see you soon.